Good afternoon. Welcome to the News Roundup for Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. I'm your host, Bill Thomas. It is the tantalizing Tuesday edition of the program. We have some pressing stories to share with you today, and here's what's happening right now on the Big Roundup. We begin with this. America's foremost adversaries gathering in Beijing to attend China's provocative military parade. Also, the trial of the man accused of attempting to assassinate President Trump. It's about to get underway in Florida, and the president urgently making preparations to deploy the National Guard in Chicago as deadly violence in the Windy City shows no signs of letting up anytime soon. Also, a Latin American leader accusing the U.S. of seeking regime change in his country, and a retired world-famous pop star announcing yet another round of farewell shows. All this and much more coming up right now on the Big Roundup. We have so much to get to today, and we begin in Beijing, where, in a display of provocative unity, the leaders of a number of America's most significant foreign adversaries are now gathering as they prepare to watch tomorrow's massive Victory Day parade, the military parade in China. Right now, North Korea's Kim Jong-un is in the process of joining Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russia's President Vladimir Putin to take part in the festivities, which are taking place to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. You should know that this is the first time in his 14-year rule that Kim is attending a major international event involving more than one other country, and South Korean intelligence officials say that the North Korean ruler will likely stand side by side with Xi and Putin in Tiananmen Square during the entire event. They also say that the North Korean leader will take advantage of this rare opportunity by holding significant top-level meetings with both China and Russia, and that Kim is looking to branch out by developing consequential partnerships with a number of other countries. They'll be attending the parade as well. In the meantime, over the last couple of days, both Putin and Xi have been thick as thieves while hanging out together at a regional trade summit in China, with the Russian leader calling Xi his dear friend and saying that right now the ties between their two nations are at an all-time high level. China claims to be neutral when it comes to Russia's war with Ukraine. However, the relationship between Beijing and Moscow has been solidifying ever since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. China continues to provide an economic lifeline for Russia by maintaining trade with Moscow despite a number of Western sanctions. Also, they've just signed a new deal to build another natural gas pipeline leading from Russia to China. Meantime, North Korea also supporting Russia's war effort against Ukraine by supplying both troops and munitions to Moscow in exchange for military and economic assistance. By the way, the president of Iran is also expected to attend China's military parade, and Xi and Putin recently met with the president of India as well, as these countries are all showing kind of a united front against the U.S. and the West. Final thought, this is the News Roundup Lowdown. By all accounts, it appears as though there's a new world order forming right in front of our very eyes, with China hosting North Korea's dictator Kim Jong-un, a real class act, Russia's murderous, warmongering thug of a president, Vladimir Putin. And what kind of parade would this be without Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian? This military parade, or charade as I call it, it's nothing new for China, and they've done this a number of times in previous years. But this time, China's leader, Xi Jinping, is doing something which is highly disturbing, even for a communist dictator. He's playing host to a guy who is actively leading a war against a sovereign nation, Ukraine. His other VIP guest from North Korea, Kim Jong-un, is actively supporting Putin in his war effort, and in my estimation, that makes him pretty much a war criminal as well. Xi Jinping, you are treading on dangerous waters. You're having an outdoor picnic with oppressive dictators, including one who is murdering, bombing, and pillaging his neighbor. And I'll tell you, left to his devices, he may well have designs on moving further into Europe. And the bottom line, sipping tea and talking shop with Vladimir Putin while keeping cozy with Kim Jong-un makes you a co-conspirator in a deadly game. Continuing down this path, it's bad for your country, tragic for Ukraine, and you are becoming a disgrace to the entire world. With that, we'll bring in producer Davey from the home base in Washington, D.C. Davey, those are my words. I think this is like this new world order forming. Are you on board with that? Do you see the same thing I'm saying?
Yeah, Bill, I think you hit the nail on the head with what's going on over there.
Yeah, you get North Korea, China, Russia, Iran, India, all in the same room at the same time. It doesn't bode well for the rest of the planet. In any event, if you have any thoughts or comments, chime in right about now. We are at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. And Davey, who's up first?
Okay, Bill. Well, your growing list of followers and fans continues to pour into the mailbag. So
that's very thoughtful. Yeah.
Straight to Oliver in Washington, D.C.
Hello, Ollie. Talk to us. What are you thinking?
Oliver says, this alarming parade get-together is a real wake-up call for our nation. Those countries aren't our friends, they're our enemies, and we better start taking this threat seriously or we're in big trouble.
We have taken it seriously. We've taken it very seriously. We're watching very closely these relationships with China, with Russia, with North Korea, with Iran, India in the fold as well. We are taking it abundantly serious, and if they get more and more rogue nations coming together, last thing you'd want to see is the U.S. and our Western allies become the collective lame duck. But the world is changing minute by minute, hour by hour, and day by day. And trust me, the Trump administration is watching these things develop every minute. And Davey, who's up next? I appreciate you checking in, Ollie.
Okay, Bill, here's one from Floyd, who's writing to us today from Long Island, New York.
I knew Floyd the barber from the Andy Griffith Show, and now we've got this Floyd. Floyd, what's on your mind, good sir?
Floyd says, congratulations, Trump. You've brought all our enemies together under one roof while simultaneously pulling away from all of our traditional allies. And if you're such a big shot, why didn't you get an invite to the parade?
Well, we haven't pulled away from any of our allies. Our allies are stronger than ever. Everybody is going up against Russia in this war with Ukraine. Well, China's not, and India's not. So a few other nations aren't. Iran's not. But no, everybody is mostly on the side of the U.S. The U.S. is on the side of Ukraine. The one trump card in this whole picture is Xi Jinping, who's making a lot of bad decisions right now. Xi Jinping is the one guy who could do what Donald Trump has been trying to do. He could jump in as a global mediator, as the ultimate conduit. He could join the U.S., he could join Ukraine, he could join all of our European allies, our global allies as well, help effect an end to this war. His country and the world would greatly benefit, but for now, he's opting to farm on chaos. That's him, has nothing to do with President Trump, the Trump administration, or Donald Trump's personal or professional policies. He's doing everything he can to solidify our relationships with all of our allies globally. Don't turn to Donald Trump. These guys have done this all on their own. Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and all the rest. Change things up here just a bit, and we are going to turn our attention now to South Florida and the impending trial of the man who's been charged with trying to assassinate President Trump at a golf course that happened in West Palm Beach last September. We all remember that very well. Now, to refresh your memory, federal prosecutors are accusing the 59-year-old Ryan Ruth of methodically plotting to kill the president by aiming a rifle through some bushes while Trump was playing a round of golf, and that happened on his own course. The suspect pleading not guilty to all the charges filed against him, including attempted assassination. Now, the federal judge in charge of the case now issuing a number of stern warnings to the suspect, 59-year-old Ryan Ruth, regarding his potential behavior in the courtroom as his trial is set to begin in just a matter of days. We'll all be watching. The judge now saying the suspect will be required to wear professional business attire, kind of like what you see right here, Davey, the old shirt and the tie for a Tuesday, a professional business attire throughout the entire trial, and that he will be allowed to use the podium whenever he talks to the jury or questions any witnesses. However, the judge also saying that Ruth will definitely not have free rein to do whatever he pleases in the courtroom, and that if he ever makes any sudden or unexpected movements, he will be instantly met with a resounding response from nearby federal marshals. Davy, federal marshals, they are well fortified. They're well trained. Don't make any mistakes. They'll come after you in a heartbeat. In case you're not aware, Ruth is planning to represent himself at the trial. The lengthy jury selection process scheduled to begin next Monday. And for now, opening statements are scheduled to kick off later next week. In the latest wrinkle to the case, Ruth is now trying to add a dozen new people to his witness list of individuals who will testify about his gentle nature. The guy with the gun in the bushes, his gentle nature. He wants that list to include President Trump. That's odd, and the judge now calling those efforts clearly absurd. Yeah, I concur. The suspect also wants to use a so-called justification defense and claim that his actions are warranted. However, the judge refusing to allow him to do that. The trial set to kick off just about a year after a U.S. Secret Service agent spotted the suspect allegedly aiming his rifle through a golf cart's fence while apparently waiting for Trump to come into view, surrounded by bushes and shrubs and all the rest. That agent then opening fire on the suspect, who then dropped his weapon and made a run for it before being captured by law enforcement a short time later on a Florida highway. Now, in addition to attempted assassination, Ruth has also been charged with a number of additional federal offenses, including assaulting a federal officer and several firearms charges, also pleading not guilty to state charges of terrorism and attempted murder. And if he's ultimately convicted, he could be facing life behind bars. Final thoughts, and this is the News Roundup Lowdown. It's a rather bizarre news story, and that someone would actually attempt to assassinate anybody, particularly a presidential candidate. And so you understand the timeline. He had been president. He was running for president again, so he was a candidate, hadn't been elected for the second term just yet. This is really maddening and evil that the suspect in this case has designs on acting as his own legal counsel. Kind of laughable, but even suspects charged with attempted murder, they have rights. You want to defend yourself? That is your right. Jury selection will take some time. Mr. Ruth will receive a fair trial, and by all accounts, borrowing some goofy insanity plea, he'll be convicted of the crimes which he's been charged with and will likely spend a good chunk of time behind bars. Now, before you go too easy on this character, remember this. The suspect planned this crime for several weeks, hid in the bushes, found his target, but was fortunately spotted by a Secret Service agent before he could harm then candidate Trump. Now, the evidence in the case abundantly overwhelming, and don't even think about the insanity plea and the road ahead for this suspect. It leads straight to a one-room suite in a federal pen. Any thoughts, comments, questions, whatever you got, drop us a note via email, and we're at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. Davey, I remember the day very clearly when this happened. I've been following it ever since. And what's on the minds of folks checking in on this story? What are they saying?
Okay, Bill, let's head straight to the mailbag, and we have Saul, who's writing to us today from Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Saul, great to hear from you out of Hattiesburg. Now, where is Hattiesburg in Mississippi, Dave?
I think Hattiesburg's to the north, the northern part of the state, Bill.
Very good, very good. What's on your mind?
Saul says, I don't see why we bother wasting time on this nut job's trial. Guilty as charged, life in prison next.
Well, innocent until proven guilty. That is his right as an American citizen. You'd want that exact same right for yourself. I'd want it for me. We all want that. He has to be found. He has to be tried. He has to be found guilty of the crimes which he has been accused of. Let's be fair. Let's let the process play out. Yeah, we can all see in black and white exactly what happened. All the evidence is clear. We know what the outcome of this case is going to be. Kind of going through the motions right now, but that is his right as an American citizen, a right to a fair and speedy trial. And David, who's up next?
Okay, here's a bit of a different view, Bill,
Sure.
from Elliot in Prescott, Arizona.
What you got for us, Elliot? I think they call it Prescott. I've had friends in Prescott Valley. They get mildly perturbed when you say Prescott. It's Prescott Valley and the city of Prescott as well.
Okay, good to know that. Keep that in mind for the next
time.
time.
I know nothing
Elliot
else in life. Just that's the only thing I know, Prescott.
Well, Elliot in Prescott says, the problem with this trial is the biased judge, who's clearly on Team Trump. Like it or not, in this country, you still have the right to a fair trial, and in this case, that's not going to happen.
Well, I don't know the judge has said or done anything in my estimation that leads me to believe that there's any bias one way or the other. He will receive a fair trial. He'll have a fair jury, 12 jurors. I see no indication that there's anything unfair about the process, about the crimes that he's being charged with, and I think we all can pretty much play it forward and tell what the outcome of the case is going to be, but I don't see the judge. I don't think most judges are biased. Some could argue that judges are biased if they're not seeing things the way you want them to be seen, but no, there's no indication of bias from that judge. All right, switch things up just a bit and turn now to the rapidly escalating violence, which is devastating our nation's third largest city, and President Trump's vow to do everything in his power to safeguard our country. Here's how it's all panning out. Following a brutal and deadly Labor Day weekend, the president now doubling down on his promise to protect the people of Chicago by deploying a number of National Guard troops to the crime-plagued Windy City. According to police, at least 58 people shot in Chicago over the holiday weekend, including 8 fatalities. And as a result, the president now calling Chi-Town the most dangerous city in the entire world. I don't often correct the president, Davey, but just this one time. There are a lot of more regions worldwide that are a smidgen more dangerous than Chicago. We have areas of the country right now that are in the midst of a war. Maybe one of the most dangerous cities in the U.S., but globally, not so much. He may have missed the mark on that one. President Trump says Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker desperately in need of help to remedy the situation. Absolutely, that he's going to solve the problem very quickly, just like he did in Washington, D.C., and that Chicago will be safe again in no time at all. Goes on to say that it's just a matter of time now before National Guard troops, they enter the city of Chicago, and that it's definitely going to happen, and that it's all part of his obligation as our nation's president to protect the citizens of our great country. Absolutely irrefutable. President says he'd prefer to have Illinois Governor Pritzker ask for his help before he sends any troops to Chicago. However, the Democratic governor continues to claim the president's plan to send the National Guard to Chicago is illegal, unconstitutional, and un-American. Except for all three of those things, yeah, you're right. Meanwhile, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson calls the president's approach both uncalled for and unsound. And last weekend, Johnson signed an executive order which he says is designed to protect his city from the federal overreach of an out-of-control administration. You got that backwards. Chicago's out of control. The administration is in full control. According to city officials, violent crime in Chicago, it's way down in the first half of this year. However, at least 37 separate shooting incidents took place in the Windy City over this past weekend, including a mass drive-by shooting which injured a number of people. And again, 8 people were killed in this weekend's shootings. Also, as a result of all the shootings, I did hear tell that one child, a 17-year-old, a teenager, was actually shot, I think, in some of the crossfire. It's just out of control. And final thought, this is the News Roundup Lowdown. You know, right off the bat, Chicago is a great American city. I've been there. I hope to go back one day. Yeah, the deep dish pizza, the Cubbies, Route 66, even a legendary rock band from the 1970s, which I think was based originally in Chicago, but I always forget the name of that band. Kansas, Boston, Alabama, Horse with No Name, America, Miami Sound Machine, Davey, was that the one?
Come on, Bill. Come on. The band was called Chicago, Bill.
Why didn't I think of that? See, whenever I get stumped on something, I always go to an adult. I went to you, Davey. You solved the problem. You saved the day. Now, for all of its pluses, sadly, that warm and embracing beacon of safety, Chicago, has issues right now with rampant crime and murder. And to that end, the Trump administration, they are ready to deploy the National Guard to do for that breezy little city what he's already done for Washington. And that is put an end to unchecked crime, clean up and take back the streets, and return the city to its rightful owners, the people like you and I. You know, sadly, tragically, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, they want nothing to do with help. And instead, they clearly want more of the same, and that's chaos. Now, look, I've fielded the phone calls. I've read through all the emails. I've seen the faxes. I've even sat through the singing telegrams, and everyone's wrong. Everyone is absolutely wrong. You're wrong, Davey. Governor J.B. Pritzker should not resign, and neither should Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson. No, both of these fine and highly effective community leaders, they should be impeached, summarily excused from, and in the future denied entrance back into what was one of our nation's truly great towns. What has happened? Hey, perhaps you had a Chicago experience or two in your lifetime which you'd like to reach out and share with us. Check in via email, newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. Davey, who do we go to off the top?
Okay, Bill, you know, one thing's for sure. People are very passionate about Chicago.
I am too. I live in L.A., but I've been there. I'm passionate about it as well.
So let's start with Mr. Allison, who's writing to us today from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Mr. Allison, Big Al, what say you, sir?
Mr. Allison says, when it comes to Chicago, what more proof do you need? President Trump is acting with grace, passion, patience, and precision.
And passion, yeah.
And he will be welcomed with open arms by a population under siege.
Yeah, I think the population, you're spot on. Yeah, the population, they'll welcome him with open arms. Absolutely, they'll welcome the National Guard with open arms. It's the governor, it's the mayor of Chicago who are thriving on the chaos for some reason. You've got murder, mayhem, and rampant crime overtaking your city, and you're saying no to federal assistance. You're doing a great disservice to your law enforcement community and to all the residents of Chicago as well. Very well put. I appreciate that. And Davey, who's up next?
Okay, here's one straight from the horse's mouth, Bill. It's Manny writing to us from South Chicago.
Come on, Manny on the south side. You got to see the same thing I'm seeing. What's on your mind?
Manny says, sorry, cuz we don't want you and we don't need you here. Mind your own business and keep your goons out of Chi-Town. We'll handle this problem on our own. Thank you for your attention in this matter.
Yeah, well, which liquor store did you knock off over the weekend, Manny? I appreciate you checking in, but you got that entirely wrong. This is your town. 58 people shot over the holiday weekend. Not throughout the year, just this past weekend. 58 people shot with deadly weapons, bullets in their body. 8 of those people died. A child, a 17-year-old teenager, was hit by that gunfire as well. You don't want additional help coming into your city, cleaning it up and make it safe again? You got that one all kinds of wrong. Chicago needs to come back, and the only person to bring it back is President Trump and the Trump administration. All right, moving along, some additional headlines we're keeping a very close watch on right now in the News Roundup newsroom. The U.S. Justice Department asking a federal court in Texas to completely dismiss a criminal fraud charge against aircraft manufacturer Boeing concerning a pair of deadly 737 MAX jetliner air crashes. They both took place in 2018 and 2019. In case you forgot about those, big news story several years ago. A new Medicare pilot program in a number of U.S. states now planning to use AI, artificial intelligence, to determine whether or not certain medical procedures will be approved. Davey, don't know what you're thinking about that, but I am mildly frightened by it. And Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro now accusing the U.S. of seeking a regime change in his country by deploying a number of naval warships to the southern Caribbean. In the meantime, federal officials claim our ships, they've been deployed to those waters in order to fight drug trafficking in the region. And they say the lethal strikes are already being conducted against alleged criminals in that area. Now, there's a lot going on today in the world of business, as you can imagine, and here's a brief look at what you need to know. Fast food giant McDonald's now announcing plans to drop the price tag on several popular combo meals as they desperately try to lure customers back to their restaurants, and as a result, many of their rivals are expected to follow suit. And David, what happened a few years ago? Every fast food chain had the $5 or the $6 bucket of vittles. Is that what they're talking about, bringing back a whole meal for $5 or $6?
Yeah, I think so, Bill. I think right now the prices have gone way up towards the $10, $12 range, and they're just trying to bring people back by keeping them relatively reasonable.
Yeah, and I think if they do that, the other fast food giants, they're going to see the exact same thing, and their prices will come down as well. They'll drum up business, and we'll all get a marginally decent lunch or dinner at a respectable price, something we can all afford. Moving along, a major investment firm grabbing a $4 billion stake in PepsiCo as they look to revive the sagging soft drink and snack company. Davey, quickly I ask you, Pepsi or Coke?
No doubt, Bill. It's Coke all the way.
Coke is the real thing. However, I am of the Pepsi generation. And gold surging to an all-time record high price of more than $3,600 an ounce as anticipation among investors rises concerning an upcoming possible rate cut by the Federal Reserve. I saw this happening, Davey. Over the weekend, I bought 3 pounds of gold. How about that?
Congratulations. Well done, sir.
Not 3 ounces, 3 pounds. Now, full disclosure, it was fool's gold or iron pyrite, and it's about 84 cents an ounce, but 3 pounds of gold for this guy. Pretty impressive?
Still impressive, but not quite as impressive as if it had been real gold, Bill.
What are you going to do? I'm not a rich guy. And now, time for us to scurry over to the part of the program we've got to call the lighter side of news, where we take an entertaining look at a few unbelievable stories which are absolutely guaranteed to make you smile, even if you just had one of those root canals right back there. I've had one before. Lead things off today by bugging you with an extremely irritating story concerning a traveler's nightmare we can all relate to, and an American city winning a crown which nobody wants to wear on their head. Check this out. Pest-fighting giant Orkin. I've heard of Orkin. They just released this year's annual top bed bug cities in America list. And if you're familiar with the rankings, this year's winner may come as no big surprise. For the 5th year in a row, Chicago is once again the worst U.S. city when it comes to bed bugs. And by the way, it seems like it's going to take a heck of a lot more than a few National Guard troops to clean up that mess. It ain't pretty. The people of Cleveland and Detroit, they can take great pride coming in 2nd and 3rd, respectively, with my own beloved hometown, Los Angeles, coming in 4th place. We're used to being in 4th in L.A., and I certainly hope next year we do a little bit better. Dave, is there a bed bug on me anywhere? I feel something. Anything?
No, Bill, you look impeccable as always.
All right. Meanwhile, a bit of a shock. A number of previous bed bug hotspots seem to be greatly improving, with both New York and Philly dropping way down on the list. That's some good news. Hey, Chicago, I hate to say it, you're a mess. Cubs haven't won the World Series since 1916 or maybe 2016. It was one of the 16s. When did they win, Davey?
I think it was 2016, Bill.
Yeah, 9 years ago. It was a long time ago. Their pizza in Chicago, marginal. And you've apparently got bugs plenty. They say they're pretty easy to spot, so always do a thorough check of your hotel room when you're staying in town. Also, bring along a can of Raid. Raid? Yeah. And I hear the little critters are sensitive to light. So whenever possible, if you're in Chicago and you're searching for lodging, always stay at the Motel 6. And you know why? Do you know why, Davey?
Why, Bill?
Because they always leave the light on for you. And by the way, see if we can get that Tom Bodette fellow, the Motel 6, Tom Bodette. See if we can get him on the program. I always like that guy. Seems like he'd be a lot of fun at a party or maybe on a podcast, and I think he'd be a very good guest. I know you got a big Rolodex. Call Tom Bodette. All right, climb away from that story now. And what else do you have which might pique our curiosity today? Where do we go from here?
Bill, there's only one way to go from here, and that's up. Straight to the top of the world.
Well, for our next story, to the top of the world, where do we go? We climb to the very top of the tallest mountain in the entire world and scope out a very disturbing view. A number of climbers who reached the top of Mount Everest now complaining that the greatest view on our whole planet is completely ruined by massive piles of garbage. Say it isn't so. In case you're not aware, climbers who attempt to reach the world's tallest peak have been leaving a ton of rubbish behind for many years now, and despite international efforts to solve the problem, the issue only seems to be getting worse and worse. According to some estimates, right now there's more than 33 tons of garbage littering Mount Everest. In the meantime, climbing to the top of the legendary mountain remains more popular than ever, with nearly 500 people showing up to attempt the feat in 2023 alone. To attempt the feat on their own 2 feet, I believe. Now, for folks who didn't know this, Mount Everest sits about 29,031.7 feet, if my memory is correct. And if I had to do that math, because some folks only know meters, I'm doing the math in my head, Davey. That would equate to about 8,848.86 meters. Use your abacus if you want and double check me, Davey, but I know my math is right. Now, at that altitude, there are no incinerators to burn the trash. The road to the top of the hill, it's kind of narrow and bumpy, so bringing a trash hauler up top, mildly challenging. And my sources tell me there are no landfills currently in use at the top of that little ridge. Even worse, man, people who attempt that climb, they don't know this, but even worse, once you crest the top of that little hill, you better bring some vittles in your backpack. And you know why, Davey? You know why?
No, Bill. Why is that?
Because at 30,000 feet, there are no golden arches. You didn't know that, did you?
I did not, but there should be one there.
Yeah, you were thinking about climbing, but so you know in advance, no Big Macs at the top of that ridge. It is rated as a mildly tough climb, so if you're going, I'd recommend using the escalator or the elevator. Do they have both now or just one or the other at Mount Everest?
Bill, I don't think they have either on Mount Everest, actually.
You got to actually hoof it yourself to the top?
You do. You probably can get some help from a Sherpa or two, but you got to do the heavy lifting yourself.
Piggyback on a Sherpa. Have them carry the weight. All right, now we scream on over to a story about a pop music legend who is, I think you called this unfarewelling. I don't know what that is. What's this all about now?
Well, what does it sound like, Bill? Unfarewelling. Saying hello and not saying goodbye.
And not saying goodbye. A little confusing, but I'll see if I can figure it out. Finally today, never say never again, especially if you're a world-famous pop star and a jingle writer. I think Barry Manilow wrote the State Farm Insurance jingle and maybe the Dr. Pepper jingle, if I remember correctly, from all those years ago. He's already played dozens of final farewell shows all over the world, only to keep on changing your mind time and time again. He's coming back. He's leaving. He's coming back. Legendary crooner Barry Manilow now pulling a complete 180, announcing yet another round of last shows. And they're scheduled to take place next year in a place called the UC. What is the UC, Davey?
Bill, that's the UK. The United Kingdom.
Oh, the United Kingdom. Why didn't you say so? In case you didn't know, over the past couple of years, the 82-year-old singer who's recorded a boatload of #1 hit songs has played more than a dozen sold-out shows. Final performances throughout both the U.S. and the UC, the UK. And he says that at the time, he really meant it when he said he was finally calling it quits. However, the geriatric Manilow now says he can still run around the stage, hit all the high notes, and even look fabulous while singing his big hit song, Copacabana. So he's giving it one more college try and saying goodbye one last time. Only this time he says he really means it. Now for Fanilow fans. And quickly, Davey, are you a Fanilow?
I guess you could call me a Fanilow. Yeah, Bill.
I'm a Fanilow. I'm not embarrassed to say it. Engineer Jamie, we've had long discussions. She's a Fanilow as well. For Fanilow fans all over the UC, the UK, it's good to know that Barry Manilow is coming back for yet another farewell tour. He says the first farewell tour was so nice, he decided to do it twice. Barry Manilow, a worldwide legend. Nobody did it better than he did. And so long as he's in good health and enjoying what he does, we hope he continues to keep on making magic. You know, whether or not you're a big Manilow fan, most everybody has a favorite Barry song. I got a bunch of them, including a little song called When October Goes from the big album 2 a.m. Paradise Cafe. Mandy was always a favorite among all of us. Weekend in New England, and, of course, Copacabana. Finally, the best thing about Barry Manilow performing in the UK is that locals will finally be exposed to great music. And Davey, as you know, no big musical acts came out of the UK in the history of music, so it's good they've got Barry Manilow to lean on, right?
Come on, Bill.
What?
Come on. Be real here. Bill, no good music out of the UK?
What's come out of the UK?
You ever heard of the Beatles, Bill? The Rolling Stones?
That. Oh.
The Kinks, you name them.
Who else?
The Who as well.
Oh, why didn't I think of that? All right, that is a look at the latter side of news. Hey, share your thoughts on Manilowing in the UK, the Mount Everest trash heap, or bedbugs taking over Chicago. You'll find us at newsroundup@gmail.com. Davey, what is on the mind of Americans?
Okay, Bill, you've touched a raw nerve again. So let's start with Lester in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Albuquerque is what it looks like. Why do they call it Albuquerque, but they spell it Albuquerque?
You'd have to ask Lester that, Bill.
Lester, what's on your mind, sir? Share your thoughts and wisdom with us.
Lester says, I got bed bugs once at a hotel in New York City, and it was the worst night of my entire life.
Yeah.
Next time, I'm paying for my own room and bringing my own sheets.
Yeah, New York, they say, is actually doing a little bit better on the bed bug front, but Chicago is doing very poorly. We're seeing some improvement here in L.A. I'm not a big fan of hotels, Dave. You're sleeping in a bed in a room that hundreds or thousands of other people have slept in as well. I'm not casting any dispersions on the hotel industry and house cleaning services and all the rest. I'm sure they do a fine job, but it sounds like kind of a communal bed. Are you on board with that?
Well, you know, they always say they clean the sheets, but... Yeah. I don't know about the bedspreads.
And the mattresses and the box springs and the carpeting on the floor and everything else. It's a little too peculiar for me if I could. I think I'd prefer to stay with friends, or maybe you have an RV. That's the way to go. Stay in your RV and you don't bug the family, you don't bug the friends, and you steer clear of those hotels and the bed bugs. Should point out, I think most hotels get it right. Just some areas, some parts of the country have a bigger problem than others. And who's up next?
Okay, Bill, here's one about Barry Manilow from Sadie in Wichita, Kansas.
Sadie, bring it on. You're my fellow Fanilow. What do you think about Barry Manilow coming back to work?
Sadie says, Barry Manilow has always been one of my all-time favorites, but he looks like he's already been embalmed, and his voice sounds like a scratchy record. Sorry, Barry, but it's time to shut down the Copacabana and call it a career.
I think it was time to shut down some time ago when he was at the top of his career. And I think we're all familiar with all the plastic surgery he has done, and when you see him talk, he sits kind of real still like this, and his face doesn't move very much, and his lips don't move very much. It looks like it's kind of labored when he's singing. Plastic surgery, I mean, he doesn't look horrible. He's a lovely guy. He's in his 80s already, but you got to age gracefully. I'm not a big fan of plastic surgery. You agree with that, Davey?
Yeah, I think you should, dance with what brung you, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was all unnecessary, but I get it. He's a global entertainer. He's in the public eye 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, wants to look his best, but yeah, I think he's a little long in the tooth. Nevertheless, I'm still a big Barry Manilow fan. And now it is time for us to call it a wrap on the tantalizing Tuesday edition of the Big News Roundup. Now, before we go, and as we do each and every day here on the program, we share with you a very notable quote, and these thought-provoking words come to us today from James Madison, who said, if tyranny and oppression come to this land, it will be in the guise of fighting a foreign enemy. Very profound. Now, Madison was one of our nation's founding fathers. I didn't even know anything was lost, but you say he founded something, Davey? Is that correct?
Yeah, he founded the United States, among others.
Didn't know it was lost, but all right, good for him. One of our founding fathers, served as the fourth U.S. president from 1809 to 1817. Also considered the father of the Constitution for his role in drafting both the Constitution of the U.S. as well as the Bill of Rights, which, by the way, was named after me. I'm Bill, the host. That is the Bill of Rights. It's history. You can read about this in elementary school history classes. And now it is time for us to race on out of here. But before we call it a day, don't forget the News Roundup motto. Ask not what your podcast can do for you. Ask what you can do for your podcast. And there are a number of things you can do. For example, you can subscribe to the program so you never miss an episode. Follow us on your favorite social media platform. And if you could, show us some love. Score us one of those highly sought after 5-star reviews. We love those. Better yet, you can head over to your favorite Hot Rockin' Flamethrowing YouTube channel, our Flamethrowing Hot Rockin' YouTube channel, and look for News Roundup with Bill Thomas. Give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to click on the bell that pops up, and that'll help you receive notifications so you never miss a single episode of the Big Roundup. By the way, the News Roundup is available on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, and wherever you find your podcasts. We're pretty much everywhere. For now, it looks like our time, it's officially up. So have an awesome day today. Please stay safe, and let's all continue to watch out for one another. Engineer Jamie, please let's dim these lights. Let's fade to black. Have an awesome day today, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow afternoon.